Hola, mi gente. This is Philip Johnson, and I'm here with Uno Souls Chat and our host, Brigitta Thoroño.
Hello, Philip. So nice to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you too. Nice to see you too. Just a reminder for our listeners, Uno Souls Chats, we are a weekly podcast that honor beacons of light in our communities, spotlighting true acts of kindness.
Yes, we really hope to shed light on how we are not alone in our journey and explore ways to help with coping and finding joy along the way.
Yeah, and along the lines of finding joy along the way, this week's episode, we wanted to just sort of come together, just the two of us, and talk about with you all about 2020 and going into 2021 tomorrow, and what that means, and just explore some things as related to there, which I'm sure a lot of people are doing.
Yeah, that's right, Philip. I'm so glad that we're having a chance to talk about this year of 2020, this year of the pandemic, where it has been a surreal year, a challenging year, and continues to be that for some people, on many different levels.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to think back and not to dwell on it for a long time, but to try to think back on what was happening. Where was I? Where were you when on March 11th here in the United States, we were told we need to shut down? And I'll start a little bit with where I was. I remember hearing that might happen, a couple of days before that. And I just really, I went into like a frenzy, but it was like a preparation frenzy. I felt like, okay, I need to prepare if we're not going to be able to leave our homes. I need to have things at home. And so I went to Costco, and I think I may have been one of the few people or the last people to get big rolls of toilet paper. And so I also equipped my daughter and her family with items from toilet paper, paper towels, bottles of water, and items that you can keep in your pantry for a while. And so then I did go into a fear mode. I definitely went into a fear mode, and I think it was about the fear of the unknown. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
what does this all mean? It was fearful from the point of view of possibly getting sick, so looking at health and how can I boost my immune system, and checking with my doctors about that, and then work. I wasn't sure what would happen with my Uno translations business. Would we have work or not? And then we were very blessed to be very busy and really like a 24/7 shop to have materials in other languages prepared for our clients. So until I got into a new routine, and I had to do a lot of my meditation and yoga and deep breathing, pranayama exercise. I mean, every tool in my toolbox that I have, from Eden energy medicine to qigong, I brought it out, and that's what I use to stabilize and ground myself those first couple of months, and until I again, it became a routine again. But and there were some difficult moments and definitely some beautiful moments that have come out
Right.
of this year. How about for you, Philip? Where were you when
No,
you first heard?
yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I think it's, it'll go into our longer conversation at some points later on, in terms of how people have been coping, and all, sort of year long for during the chats that we've been having, people have heard how people have been coping and different ways that has worked. Hopefully some tips have been found. But for me, I was actually in Australia. So I was living in Australia in March of this year, and we ended up moving back in May. And so it had already been in the works, right? So we just, we went along with it, and it was a different experience from what my family and friends were experiencing in the States. culturally, just the response was different. Case numbers obviously were driving how different it felt. So, but there were still moments of, receiving that type of, the stress from my family and friends and wherever they were, San Francisco or, in Tennessee or New York. And people are experiencing it at different levels as well. And so then, I mean, I just found it very important to anchor moments of time on these check-in calls, or Zoom blew up, so like a Zoom call, and finding different ways of finding joy in those kinds of moments. And maybe just for my situation, because I was already so far away, it made me feel like a lot closer with people who I hadn't felt close with because we've been living for about a year or so. So that's where I was. And once we got back to New York, it was still a major hotspot. And I think things then became, it changed. The way we dealt with it changed because our physical movements were limited, and things were very scarce, like you're talking about. We actually brought with us a lot of things from
Oh,
Sydney, like
good.
in our baggage.
Mhm.
Wipes. We actually brought toilet paper and paper towels.
That's
Um,
good.
yeah, I mean, but one thing is, I do remember like leading up, I have this vivid memory of getting an Instagram ad while I was like walking home from work one day. And it was an Instagram ad for a mask, like a face mask.
Mhm.
And I thought, do I need this? I was like, I don't need this. Like, they're not wearing them in Sydney, and things seem to be fine. But maybe I should just get a couple just in case something happens. And then like I closed my phone because like the light turned to walk, and I didn't order it. And then a week later it happened, and I went back, and they were like sold out for months. And so, we eventually
Wow.
got some different kind. But I remember having that and sort of returning to that moment. And
Mhm.
it's a very small moment, or at least I feel like it was. But what it sort of has taught me is that you need to listen to a little bit of your intuition as you're going along. And I think during this year for me, that's something that I have paid more attention to. If you're getting a certain feel about somebody or something or a situation, then explore what that means to you. Instead of shutting that voice out, welcome it in and have a conversation with it. And that to me has been something that I've learned, and that I want to bring with me into 2021, and along with some other things too. But I think we should talk about some of those silver linings.
Yeah,
And I know that
absolutely.
there's a couple for you definitely that ring true.
Yeah, yeah, that's a beautiful thing. How you just explained, like listening to your intuition, listening to your gut, because that is something we forget to do. And I think that it is partly from the stillness that we've had this year,
Mm,
moments of that it does give us a chance to try to listen internally a little bit more. For me, I have had a number of silver linings this year. Uh, One of them is about, I want to say, just really having such a true appreciation for family and good friends. And I think that for me, I feel like I sometimes take that for granted, that my daughter is right around the corner with the grandbabies, and I can see them anytime, but maybe I don't see them once a week. And then, through this time, we became part of the same bubble, and I saw them at least once a week, and it was just a beautiful thing. And the same with Zoom, the fact that I brought in my family from Argentina into Zoom, my son and daughter and other family members. We were all on a Zoom call together for like 3 months every Saturday morning. And I wouldn't have done that if it wasn't for COVID, to bring in family from outside of the area to communicate with them. So that's something that is just so special to me, and I don't want to lose that.
right. Neither, yeah, I completely hear you. And I think that for me rings so true. There's a level of authenticity in those relationships that I feel like have shown themselves, and you're able to explore and really feel those connections stronger, which is sort of strange to say because they're still that far away, and they're through a
Yeah.
screen. But it's something is there that, reminds us of how important it is to um, put things down, look each other in the eye, focus on what's going on. And it's interesting to me that it is through a screen because it's mostly like put the screens down, like be in person with someone, but we're using a screen to be present with each other. And I think that, I mean, it's a nice way that technology is helping us, as opposed to distracting us. So that for me is a big silver lining. Authenticity in relationships, I really value that a lot more this year than I have in years before. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's been really nice, some parts of
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. And another thing for me, which was new, is that I have done more cooking this year than I have ever cooked my entire life. And with that came the washing of so many dishes. And I have a dishwasher, and I just couldn't figure. And I live by myself, so it's like, where are these plates coming from? I just don't understand. But I have, I've always been a person who needs recipes. I've gotten a little bit better where I feel like, oh, I can be a tiny bit creative, and I have this in my pantry, that in my freezer, and so that's been fun to be more creative with cooking.
Yeah. Did you do any baking? Did you jump onto the baking trend?
I'm sorry, I did not. I really wanted to make bread, and
Yeah.
in one group of my girlfriends, they were all making bread, and they're like, "Oh, we'll send you recipes," because I mean, I don't have the right tools even. But then I thought, well, apparently they sell these expensive bread makers, and I thought,
Mhm.
oh, maybe I'll just do a bread machine. I haven't done that because I can't imagine how delicious that bread would be and how much of it I would be eating.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Yeah. I definitely didn't jump onto the bread trend. I did a lot of banana bread.
Oh,
But
nice.
I just started doing it more frequently, I think, which was really nice. But like, sourdough breads and not all that thing, I just leave that to the professionals, was my opinion. But I do remember, and I started cooking too more. And I think that there is also a joy in that sort of like, slow, measured process and having something at the end of it. But I I do want to talk about this recipe I tried, which was just a disaster. And I was trying, I was trying to like make like something healthy, because I had too many bananas now because I was doing all this banana bread. So I tried to make banana pancakes,
Oh,
and it was like mashed banana with an egg. Um, but I think, okay, so like I said, I was trying to be healthy, but then I was like, oh, I'll just put some chocolate chips in it,
oh no.
like makes it not healthy.
Well, that
Anyway,
makes
so then
everything taste better.
but it just turned to like this sort of brown mush because the chocolate melted. And
Uh,
I remember like my partner ordered something and I was like, no, I'm gonna try and make something healthy. And so he ate, and then I like had my like so bad. It was so bad. But
but it was probably delicious.
yeah, if you weren't looking at it, I think you would think it was delicious. Yeah. But the cooking, I align with that too. Yeah, it was nice to explore different kinds of recipes. I mean, there was a recipe you had talked about. Potato, what was it called? An Ecuadorian.
Yeah, from Ecuador, the japingachos, and which is an
Mm,
indigenous word, but basically it is sort of like smashed mashed potatoes that you put cheese and onion in them and you fry them.
mm.
And you kind of can't go wrong with it. And so it was a big hit. My family really enjoyed them, and I remember my grandmother making them. And I feel like
Oh.
I'm missing something because it wasn't that difficult to make.
I can remember sort of tasting them, but I haven't made them myself, so I think I'd like to be able to do that
Yeah,
at
yeah,
some point. Yeah.
right.
Um, yeah, so I mean, what about for 2021? Like, what do you have in mind, like, there for going ahead?
Yeah, so for 2021, I want to continue to just really nurture the relationships that I have, and continue to make that just something very important for myself. I did start personal training this past year on
Oh,
Zoom,
oh
and
wow.
so my good friend Pilar Lorca, who has a personal training business, and we've chatted with her on Uno Souls Chat. She was training me once a week, and so I want to be able to continue doing that because
Mhm.
now, especially that it's winter, I don't feel as much like I'll go out to do a walk, a brisk walk, or things like that. So doing it on Zoom is a good compromise for me. And
Mm.
so I want to continue to do that. I love music, and I've been really, really brought that into my soul, I want to say, this past year. And I want to continue to do more of that, and um, maybe play a little, like learn a little bit on the guitar, a little bit more on the keyboard, and maybe do some singing because it's so good for the soul. I just love music. And speaking of that, it reminds me of our savoring the deliciousness, having moments of that. And I think everything I just mentioned is something that really did make me feel like I had these moments of savoring the deliciousness. And I want to be able to find more of that in 2021, like nature walks. I just love nature walks. What are some moments of savoring the deliciousness for you?
Yeah, I mean, for me, nature walks absolutely is up there for me. I mean, it's in the city, that's very different, to find different pockets of nature, but um there are some really pretty areas on the water on either side. Well, mostly on like the Hudson side, the west side, where we have found there's a huge new sort of like park opening. I forget what it's called, but it'll have different, activation, engaging areas. So
Oh,
I'm excited for that to open, and then to, just to, yeah, keep going on these walks. Central Park's obviously very close by. I'm excited to maybe at some point be able to, go on walks like with you or, in Virginia. But just, so meaning like just maybe to be able to see people a little bit more easier, spend time together. Um, yeah, that's a big one for me too. Yeah. Um, I was also going to mention, well, it's floating out of my head now, so we can just,
okay. All right,
yeah.
that's okay, great. I had this poem that like again, 2020 just really brought the love of poetry to me, and I've learned about so many different poets. And one of them, his name is Pablo Neruda, and he's a Nobel Prize winning poet from Chile. And would you mind if I read you just a couple of stanzas of his
Yes.
poem? It's called Keeping Quiet, and he wrote it maybe 50, 60 years ago. But if when you hear it, just the beginning of this, you might think that he wrote it this year. He has passed away, but it's just so appropriate for this time.
Yes,
Okay.
please read it. Please read it.
Now we will count to 12, and we will all keep still. For once on the face of the earth, let's not speak in any language. Let's stop for a second and not move our arms so much. It would be an exotic moment, without rush, without engines. We would all be together in a sudden strangeness. Fishermen in the cold sea would not harm whales, and the man gathering salt would not look at his hurt hands. Those who prepare green wars wars with gas, wars with fire, victories with no survivors, would put on clean clothes and walk about with their brothers in the shade, doing nothing. What I want should not be confused with total inactivity. Life is what it is about. So that's just a little bit of it, but it's just this beautiful poem, which reminds me of 2020, where the world came to a stillness. I mean, it was not just the United States or just Australia, it was the entire world, which to me it became so obvious that we are all just one humanity and we are all so interconnected. And it just reminds me of that so much.
Yeah, I think that's so powerful and so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And I think I would like to use some of that stillness going into 2021 and remain open to what's to come, and also keep listening to my inner voice and paying attention to, my intuition, and be present for people around me.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Philip. And me too. I feel like bringing in 2021 with stillness will be important to me, but also to know that there is joy and that there is hope. Starting January 1st, obviously not automatic, but it's just a feeling that we can have inside of us, right? The joy, the hope of what's to come, and what we can bring into it, the positive attitudes that we can bring into 2021 after everything that we've just learned in 2020. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think, wishing a happy new year to you and to all of to the listeners, to everyone joining us, and can't wait to see how we go.
Absolutely. Happy New Year to you, my friend, and to everybody listening. I honor the light in all of you. Thank you, and Happy New Year.
Thank you so much for listening to Uno Souls Chat. You can find us at www.unosouls.com and on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I would love to hear from you if you would like to chat with me. Have a beautiful week and see you at the next episode.